Hello there. Welcome to Legends with the Jedi Historian. Hi, welcome to the Jedi Historian. Here, we're going to be doing another chapter of Star Wars Republic Commandos, Hard Contact. Where we left off, we met two new commandos, Niner and who was it? Phi. Niner and Phi. And they were from other squads who were killed out in the field during Geonosis. And also, we met a Jedi named Atin, a Padawan. She is on a planet, Qiilura? I don't know. The name will come up again. But she's stranded. Yeah, her master is either dead or missing. We don't know yet. We don't know. But the main character, the key character, Darman. Let's see where he's at. So, Chapter 2. Clone personnel have free will, even if they do follow orders. If they couldn't think for themselves, we'd be better off with droids. And they're a lot cheaper, too. They have to be able to respond to situations we can't imagine. Will that change them in ways we can't predict? Perhaps. But they have to be mentally equipped to win wars. Now, thaw those men out. They have a job to do. Jedi Master Arlagan Zay, Intelligence Officer. I botched that name up bad. Arlagan Zay. Alright. Secure briefing room. Fleet support. Or Mantell. 3 standard months after Geonosis. Fleet support base hadn't been built to accommodate tens of thousands of troops, and it showed. The briefing room was a cold store, and it still smelled of food and spice. Darman could see the loading rails that spanned the ceiling, but he kept his focus on the holoscreen in front of him. It didn't feel so bad to be revived after stasis. He was still a commando. They hadn't reconditioned him. That meant he'd perform to expected standards in Geonosis. He'd done well. He felt positive, but his helmet felt different. There was a lot more data on the HUD, the heads-up display. He flicked between modes for a while, controlling each command with rapid blinks. Nothing the extra system and hardware that had been installed since Geonosis. Noting the extra systems and hardware that had been installed since Geonosis. Still to his left was his new sergeant. Sitting to his left was his new sergeant, who preferred to be called Niner when superior officers weren't around, and RC-8015, nicknamed Phi. They, too, were the sole survivors of their squad. At least they knew what he was going through. There was a 4th makeshift seat in a row, a blue alloy packing crate, and it was unoccupied. Jedi Master Arlagan Zay, hands clasped behind his back, paced up and down in the front of the screen, cloak flapping, breaking the hollow projector each time. Another Jedi, who had not been identified, was splitting his attention between Zay and the 3 helmeted commandos, sitting absolutely still on the row of crates. The reflective surfaces of the spray clean alloy walls enabled Darman to discreetly observe an unusual alien, one he had never seen before. He had been trained to take in every detail of his surroundings, although it was very difficult not to notice the creature. The alien was about 1.5 meters long, and it was slinking around the walls, sniffing. Black-furred and glossy, it prowled on long, delicate legs, thrusting a narrow muzzle into muzzle into crevices. Oh my god. I can't find my glasses. I swear. I'm blind. Crevices and exhaling sharply each time it did. Earlier, Darman had heard Zay address it as Valaquil. He also said it was a Grulenin, a shapeshifter. Darman had heard about shapeshifters in training, but this wasn't a Claudite. He was watching its reflection in his right field peripheral vision when the door swung open and another commando entered, helmet tucked under rigidly under his right arm, and saluted smartly. RC-32222, sir, he said. Apologize for keeping you, sir. The medics didn't want to discharge me. No wonder. There was a stripe of raw flesh across his face that started just under his right eye, ran clean across his mouth, and finally ended at the left side of his jaw. He certainly didn't look like any of the other clones now. Darman wondered what level of persuasion it had taken to get the medical staff to skip a course of Bacta. Are you fit, soldier? Zay said. Fit to fight, sir. He said. He sat down next to Darman and assumed the same ramrod position, glancing at him briefly in acknowledgement. So, this was their fourth man. They were a squad again. Numerically, anyway. Omega Squad. The other Jedi was staring at the newcomer with an expression of barely concealed astonishment. Zay seemed to notice and nudge his colleague. Padawan Juskin is new to the clone armies, as are we all. That was understandable. Darman had never seen Jedi before the Battle of Geonosis, and he was equally fascinated. You'll excuse his curiosity. Zay gestured at the hollow screen. This is your objective, gentlemen. Qiilura. He glanced at his datapad, reading intently. This data has been obtained from high-altitude reconnaissance, so it has its limitations. Zay went on. Qiilura is technically neutral. Unfortunately, its neutral status is likely due to end very soon. He had referred to them as a gentleman. Maybe Zay didn't know what to call commandos. It was still early days for all of them. The image on the screen began as a blue and white disc, zooming in to views of chains of islands, deep river inlets, and rolling plains peppered with patches of woodland and game board fields. It looked pleasant and peaceful, and hence utterly alien to Darman, whose entire life beyond Pico City had been spent on battlefields, real or virtual. You're looking at farming communities. Almost all of them located here in this region because it's the most fertile land, they said. They produce bark, cushion, and 15% of the luxury foodstuffs and beverages in the galaxy. There's also gem mining. The population is nevertheless living at substance level, and there is no government other than the law of commerce and profit. Nemoidian traders effectively own the planet, or at least the productive areas that are of use to them. They enforce their stewardship through a militia controlled by Gez Hoken, a Mandalorian so unpleasantly violent that he was actually asked to leave the Death Squad for enjoying his work too much. Jusk looked up from his datapad. He appeared to be following the presentation. Scum, he said. One of our sources calls them scum, indicating a very disagreeable group of people. Zay paused for breath as if to ensure that the last snippet of information had made its point. Given how thinly stretched our resources are, we are unfortunately unable to justify intervening to deal with any injustice on Qiilura at this time. But we have excellent intelligence that indicates a significant military asset located there. Darman was listening and still watching the Gurlanin peripherally. It had moved around the room to sit upright beside Jusic, I'm saying his name wrong, sorry. Jusic, with its front paws nearly clasped before its chest. He was also observing Jusic. The Padawan still appeared riveted by the commandos. Darman was careful not to stare, even though any eye movement was disguised by his helmet, because Jedi knew things without having to see. His instructors had told him so. Jedi were omniscient, omnipotent, and to be obeyed at all times. Darman hung on Zay's every word. Qiilura isn't on the main lane, so to speak, Zay said. Ideal for hiding. If that's your intention, and there are things hidden there. We need you to apprehend one. Oh, okay. And destroy the other. A separatist scientist, Ovalot Quell Euthen, and her most recent project, a nanovirus. We have reason to believe both are at a research facility on Qiilura. Zay paused, and Jusic filled the space. We have a Jedi there, Master Cast Fuller, but we haven't heard from him or his Padawan in some weeks. Zay picked up again. And let me assure you that we've been searching diligently for them. We have a location for our target, but no plans of the buildings. The lack of plans will make your retrieval and sabotage task more challenging. as well the communications situation. Questions? Nina raised a gloved hand from his lap. Sir, what is the comm situation exactly? Nemoidians. Not quite with you, sir? Not quite with you, sir. Zay looked blank for a moment, and then his face lit up with revelation. The Nemoidians own and control all the infrastructure. The native population scarcely have pits for refreshers, but their overlords enjoy the finest comlink net and air traffic control that credits can buy. They like to ensure that nobody does business without their knowledge. So they monitor everything, and every little intelligence comes out. You'll have to avoid using the long-range comlink. Do you understand me, soldier? Sir, yes, sir, General Zay. There was a pause, a long pause, and Zay looked along the row of the 3 helmets and a damaged face, as if waiting for something. The Jedi had said he hadn't worked with clones before. Maybe he was expecting a dialogue. He stopped at Darman. The potential embarrassment to the master prompted Darman to fill the silent void. It was an obvious question to ask, really. What's the nature of the nanovirus, sir? Zay's head moved back just a fraction. An intelligent and significant question, he said. Thank you, sir. The answer, then, should be of great interest to you personally. It appears to be specifically aimed at clone personnel. The sleek black girl Lannon drew itself up into a greater height. They fear you, and with good reason. It helps in a deep... Oh, my bad. It's said in a deep, liquid voice. So they wish to kill, as all ignorant beings do when they encounter something they fear and misunderstand. It continued elegantly and now appeared to standing, elongating. It continued elongating and now appeared to be standing. It had changed shape. Yes, Zay said slowly, dragging the word into 2 syllables. And he looked away from the spectacle of molecular rearrangement. At this time, you still have an advantage. The Separatists almost certainly aren't aware of your potential as clone commandos. They have no idea what you can achieve, and perhaps we have no idea either. But you have been created for excellence and trained to realize that potential by the most experienced instructors in the galaxy. We have very high expectations. Zay slipped his hands into his cloak. What? Into his cloak. Head lowered slightly. If you happen to find Master Fuller safe, we would be relieved. But Uthan and the facility are your main priorities. Do you understand everything I have said? Yes, sir. Darman nodded once, and so did the others. But it wasn't quite a synchronized movement. We'll get it right, he thought. A couple of days training, that'll sort it. Train hard, fast, fight easy. I'll leave you to my Padawan then, Zay said and swept out, pausing briefly at the door to look back at the commandos, tilting his head as if he was either amazed or amused. Jessic swallowed hard. The Gerlanin flowed from the column back into a 4-limbed thing and moved it and moved to sit beside RC-3222, gazing up at him. The commando didn't react. Ah, it sighed. It had a voice like running water. My, that's indeed Fett's face. Fascinating. Jessic gestured to the exit. I'm your armorer, he said. Weapons and data. Follow me and I'll show you what you'll have at your disposal. The commandos rose as one, more or less, and followed him through the door and down a passage still strewn with victualling. Give me a second here. With victualling containers. The place smelled of stewed nerf, even through Darman's filtration mask. The Gerlanin flowed before them, now a sinuous predator, now a trotting quadruped, shifting shape as it went. Jessic stopped at a door at the end of the passage and turned to them. I wonder if I could ask the rest of you to remove your helmets. Nobody asked why, and they all obeyed, even though it wasn't phrased as the unequivocal order they were expecting. The helmet seals made faint sounds as they opened. Oh, Jessic said, and stared for a second. Then he opened the door and they stepped into a makeshift armory. It was a cache of treasures. There were upgrades and bolt-ons that Darman knew might fit his existing gear. An ordnance that he didn't recognize but looked like Republic issue, and they were exotics. Weapons he recalled from his database as belonging to a dozen different species, and quite a few that he couldn't place at all. They were laid out neatly on trestle tables. It was inviting, almost as inviting as a meal. That all looks rather useful, sir, Niner said. Delta Squad has been collecting a few things here and there, Jessic said. The commandos were focused on the weaponry, but Darman was also noting Jessic's behavior with growing interest. The Padawan stood back to let the men get a closer look at the armaments, but he was watching them carefully. You're nothing like droids at all, are you? No, sir, Fi said. We're flesh and blood, bred to be the best. Like advanced recon commandos? Not quite ARCs, sir. Not like clone troopers either. We don't work alone, and we don't work in formations. We just look the same. This is your unit of 4, then. A squad. He seemed to be recalling a hurried lesson, almost like a family. Niner cut in. It is now, sir. He picked up a portable missile launcher that looked slightly different from the standard issue Plex. Light, very light. Mursan prototype, Jessic said. Novel alloy, heavier payloads, extra range. It has a micro pulsar lift stabilizing unit. But they haven't resolved all the more challenging technical issues yet. So consider it shoulder launching. He peered at 3222's face. Is that painful? Not too bad, sir, the commando said, but the wound had to hurt like fire. The abraded skin was still weeping. I'll see to it later. It didn't seem to be the answer Jessic was expecting, judging by the slight sound he made. Maybe he thought clones didn't feel pain, like droids. Do you have names? I don't mean numbers, names. Now, that was a very private thing. You kept your name to yourself, your squad, and your training sergeant. Darman was embarrassed for him. My squad called me Atin, the wounded commando said. Niner glanced at 5, but said nothing. Atin was Mandalorian for stubborn. Jessic held up 2 reels in line that looked like matte ribbon, one black, one white. He took a ribbon for each color, twisted it to short lengths together, held up the braid in one hand and a bead-sized detonator in the other. 1 meter is the equivalent yield of a thermal detonator, but it's directional, ideal for making a frame charge, but be cautious with the quantity if you want to enter a building rather than destroy it completely. You have some special implosion ordnance for that purpose. Any useful hand-thrown stuff? Darman asked. Stun grenades? We have a few Geonosian sonic detonators and a box of EMPs for anti-droid use. That'll do me fine. I'll take the lot. Niner was watching Darman intently. You're obviously our demolitions man, he said. Then the sergeant turned back to the Padawan. We've been thoroughly trained, sir. You can have complete confidence in us. That was true. Darman thought they had been very thoroughly trained, day in, day out, for 10 years, and the only time they weren't training was when they were sleeping. Even if they were untested as a special forces unit, apart from playing infantry 3 months ago, Darman had no doubt that they would perform to expected standards. He was happy to be the demolition role. He was proud of his skill in what was delicately known as rapid entry. What do you think happened to Master Fuller, sir? Darman asked. He wouldn't normally have posed unnecessary questions, but Arlie Ganze had seemed to approve of his curiosity, and Darman was conditioned to do whatever Jedi generals wished. Jessic opened a case of Kaminoan saber darts and held it out as if offering a tray of ooge cakes. Valaquil believes he was betrayed by a native, he said. They've been known to do anything to earn food or a few credits. Darman wondered how a Jedi could be taken by anything less than an army. He'd seen them fight at Geonosis. Sorry. Excuse me. His warfare was a science. Theirs appeared to be an art. Didn't he have his lightsaber? He did, the Gurlanin said. But Master Fuller has, or had, some discipline issues. Darman, a soldier able to withstand every privation in the field, and whose greatest fear was to wither from age rather than die in combat, felt inexplicably uncomfortably at the idea of a Jedi having failings. Master Fuller was is a courageous Jedi, Jessic said, almost losing his composed manner for a moment. He is simply passionate about justice. Niner diffused the moment. Darman felt reassured by his effortless authority. Sir, how long have we got to plan the mission and attempt a few dry runs? He said. 8 standard hours, Jessic replied, almost apologetic, because that's how long the journey to Qiilura will take. You're embarking now. All right. See where we're at. 30 minutes. I think that's a good place to stop. Yeah. So that's halfway in chapter 2. Hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please press the like button. Leave a comment. Subscribe. If you want more like this content. And have a great day. And may the Force be with you.